Let's begin inside the box with the clamp stuff I was asked to show. First up is Magic Knight Rayearth, which I don't remember much about, but as you can see, there were a bunch of individual releases, I think, and this is just a simple Anime Works complete collection with a special features DVD. So maybe it's not a bunch of individual releases. I guess I just don't know. Either way, I have that, and then I have Magic Knight Rayearth 2. Now, the series themselves, I only have very vague recollections of like a couple scenes. I can barely even remember anything about the overall story itself. Actually, I question whether I even remember it. These discs are not as interesting, so I guess we don't need to go into those. Angelic Lair is something I have watched a good number of times on the other hand, and I really enjoy it. It's kind of a straightforward, somewhat predictable story. I mean, it's one of those anime that I felt where you knew kind of what was going to happen and could still enjoy it anyways. Although there were a couple of annoying things, namely how she always gets exactly the right help along the way, even from her opponents and whatnot. Not all of her opponents were good people, so it kind of has that unrealistic aspect to it, I guess. Let's move that aside. Once again, go to Cardcaptor Sakura, who's I can't remember the intricate details of everything that happened, but I do very fondly remember the first 8 episodes as some of the most awesome stuff I've ever seen, I guess. Not to say that the rest of it was necessarily bad, but I don't know. I watched those first 8 episodes, and I think I almost get goosebumps now. I have the first 8 or 9 DVDs there, and then I've got the first movie. And these are, of course, the subtitled individual releases that were released for really, really high prices at the time. Although I guess it's not unusual nowadays. Maybe? I don't know. It was like back when DVDs cost almost $20 per. These were still being sold for $24, $23.50, something like that. Yeah, if I had all the time in the world, this would definitely be something I'd go back and rewatch, because it's something I'd like to remember better. I can say that about a lot of anime, but this one I remember being pretty fond of. And I originally picked up the first 2 discs locally because they were on sale for $5 each. This is, of course, the second movie, which I believe really ended everything. Let's continue trying to do all of the clamp stuff in one shot, because next up comes Chobits. So this first DVD was bought for me for one of my birthdays by a friend who heard good things about it, and I think it was probably one of the first anime that I received or had on DVD that I had never seen before, and that would mean it introduced me to the concept of watching new anime by DVD. And now, as you can tell, I watch all my new anime on DVD. So, one interesting thing about this series is if you go from the first disc to the 7th disc, you can actually see the change of the change in name or the change in ownership between Pioneer and Geneon, I think. I think one became the other. I don't remember which. Clamp School Detectives was another clamp thing I was asked to show. I think I watched a couple episodes, but at the time I had some more exciting things I wanted to watch. So I never got far enough into this for it to really catch me. It didn't feel like it had enough to catch early up. I've got the X Remix release, the limited edition DVD collector's set, I guess. As far as I can tell, this is the same concept as, or the same content is all the X TV series stuff. Oh darn. I can't do all of this in one take, can I? Huh. See, they list the episodes there. That's kind of interesting. And I don't know if this should have been shown before or after, but it took me a long time to find this in my collection, and it turned out I had already dug it out. But X, and this should be the movie, or the movie version, or I don't know. I don't know which it is, but it's supposed to be part of X. So, they said showing the Tsubasa stuff would be optional. So, I'm going to keep the Tsubasa stuff not too shown, just the box set. But the reason I have to pull out Tsubasa Chronicle when finishing up the clamp stuff is because I was asked to show xxXHolic, or just Holic. And this contains both, you know, this is the movie double feature with both the Tsubasa Chronicle and Holic movies. So, then we can just go straight to Holic. Oof. Sorry if I'm being a little clumsy. Anyways, this was a good series. I really enjoyed it. This kind of mystery is very similar to, like, Mushishi, I guess. Although they're definitely very different personalities. Oof. Now, come on, get in there. And I guess, to reduce the number of cuts I do, we'll jump to the next thing. Let's see, I was asked to show Blue Dragon. You may recognize the art style. It's the same guy who did Dragon Ball and Chrono Trigger. Unfortunately, I think Blue Dragon only had these 3 DVD releases. Then they stopped releasing them. They must not have been selling well. I think maybe Bakugan Battle Brawlers suffered similar, where only these 6 DVDs were released, as I know. This one's felt a little weight. I think I've only watched the first 2 discs. But I have to admit, it's not my highest priority watch. I've got so many high priority things to watch. Haibane Renmei. It's a very heartwarming kind of tale, maybe? I don't know. I should have taken a break in between the shots, since I'm just editing them out anyways. This is a really old, expensive purchase. It was expensive at the time anyways, $100 for a 13 episode series. But, you know, this is one of those series with high rewatch value simply because you can watch it a dozen times and still not understand it, maybe. Or maybe you can, I don't know. I'm confused. It's just that out there. Let's see. Maybe on it like this? No? Like that. That looks good. Kaze. This one was a simple and I would say alarmingly beautiful, I guess. I mean, the incestuous relationship overall is kind of uncomfortable to think about, but they just seemed like they genuinely needed people like each other or something. Scrap Princess is a pretty good series. I'm not quite sure what about it hesitates me from saying it's a super awesome series, because a lot of stuff about it was just really super awesome. If I had to guess, it's this one specific story arc that's actually pretty spoilerific for me to talk about, so I can't go into details in a very casual, brief video like this. Slayers. It's a very 80s, 90s 90s kind of anime. Basically, in every aspect, I would say. And I'm trying to say what exactly about it. I'm trying to think, what is it that I specifically like about it? I don't know that the stories are necessarily well told, focused, or whatnot, so I would have to say that I just watch this anime because I really like Leon Inverse. She's something of an anti-hero who's also a really powerful anti-hero who doesn't come off as a powerful or powerful anything, I guess, until you tick her off, and then she destroys a city using a dragon slave, which I thought maybe the newer seasons maybe didn't get quite perfectly, but they were still pretty good. There's still more Slayers, I think. Right now, I have to admit that I'm beginning to not remember as well. I want to go back and watch a lot of it again. I don't want to rewatch so much anime. But I've got so much new anime that I've never seen before. And the truth of the matter is, I kind of am okay with considering it watched, even if I can't remember it, simply because not only do I not mind being spoiled about a lot of stuff, but sometimes it doesn't take much to remember the stuff from it and be able to spoil all of it yourself. This, of course, is OVA collections. Those were all the series before it. And this is a collection of the movies. With, of course, the paper insert, or the paper back still there. Slayer's the motion picture. Slayer's Return. Slayer's great. Slayer's gorgeous. So there's this interesting thing where Japanese movies are allowed to be much shorter than we would expect movies here in the U.S. I think it's more common in the U.S. for movies that are for short movies to be an hour and a half, whereas in Japan they can get as short as 40 minutes. Since this is a pretty short pile, we'll just finish off with True Tears. And I guess I don't remember the details of that one. I don't remember the details of Sola. I just only remember enough stuff about anime to spoil them. Huh. This is getting pathetic. So, while I'm going through Fighting Spirit, let me go ahead and talk a bit about my not remembering of anime. Basically, my inability to remember as many details about all the anime I watch as I would like. That's the basic reason why I don't consider myself to be that great of an otaku. Obviously, I'm obsessed enough to buy the DVDs, and I really enjoy watching it. But I seem to have some detachment beyond that. I don't know. Anyways, Fighting Spirit itself was actually quite great to watch. I was really surprised, given how long it was, just how easy it was to stay interested and curious and wanting to see more all throughout it. I still haven't seen the Rocky movies yet. And watching something like this kind of makes me understand how those movies could potentially be great, and I want to see them. And that's, of course, the 15 volumes of Fighting Spirit. And this is the OVA or movie. No, this is the TV special, Champion Road. And as we finish with the project dotHack stuff, let me we've got some pins there. Tsubasa, Mimiru, and Grunty. Let me also say that I was asked to show my music stuff, and I'm going to leave that on my to-show list for next week, because it took me a couple of hours to search my collection for a couple of titles that had moved around a lot. Really didn't help that I missed that I moved X the Movie outside of a pile while searching for stuff. So, yeah. So, that of course had 6 discs in it, which again comes down to it lacking the 7th, which is the bonus disc part of this. Oh well. Now, while the dotHack games are not necessarily the anime, it is true that the games come with dotHack liminality episodes. And the story from the games comes immediately after the story from dotHack Sign. Or these 4 games, these first 4 games. So there's nothing particularly impressive about the hack liminality discs. Although I guess just showing that they're in there is sufficient, right? Hack Quarantine, the final chapter. Final episode of Liminality. That's pretty good. dotHack Legend of the Twilight, also known as Legend of the Twilight Bracelet, and AI Busters, I think was the manga version. There's only 3 discs of this. It was an okay series. Nothing too spectacular. What it really missed was, it's part of the dotHack stuff, and compared to dotHack Sign, the mystery explored in this one is rather simple, lackluster. It seems inconsequential, so you can kind of shrug it off. Otherwise, it did have some nice concepts of the characters being in the world, experiencing the world, and having fun in the world. dotHack Roots was an attempt to restart stuff, to start a new story, I guess. And the biggest problem with dotHack Roots is that since it's not starting from the beginning of a mystery, it's basically a very blatant nod to, ooh, I wonder what mysteries are still here. So it's kind of a little too dependent on hack science. Sort of like My Otome was too dependent on My Hime. And then, of course, there's the games. There's only 3 of them. That's a rather thick manual. It feels like there's another disc in here. I've not played these games, though. I bought all 3 of them in the off chance that I do. And, of course, I kind of have a rough idea what happened in the games because dotHack GU Trilogy is a CGI version of the contents of the game. The DVD also comes with a parody mode thing, which is simple enough. Alright, well that would be this week's Inside the Box. Again, I'll try and dig out my anime music stuff next week, assuming I don't have an overload of DVDs.